Welcome guys, and this is what we're going to be building today. And this is a to-do app where you can put all your to-do on a list of my tasks. If maybe you say today you're going to learn JavaScript, you only have to put your JavaScript there and submit. When you submit, your JavaScript comes here and you can delete it as well. And something, okay, let's say you had put learn JavaScript, but you realize that you had already added JavaScript to your tasks. You can cancel and delete all that input there. And without wasting time, let's quickly jump into the video. And if you see this URL, I had already deployed it using Vercel. And if you don't know about Vercel, I have a whole video talking about free hosting providers that you can watch and know more about that. And I'll put a link for that video in the description. Okay, let's quickly jump into that. And for this project, I had prepared a CSS. So if you want this CSS and you'd like to style your project exactly as I styled mine, feel free to go to my GitHub and clone that. I'll put a link to my GitHub in the description as well. So let's quickly jump into the JavaScript and focus on the logic behind the build. And for this, let me quickly show my HTML. I'm going to access all those inputs and place using the DOM manipulation, and I'll be accessing them via these classes that I had put here previously. Okay, so for that, I'll first access my submit button, and I'll say submit button is equal to document query selector, and inside there I'm going to put the class that is on that button, and I'll say task input. And here actually I'm accessing the whole form because this is a form, right? So this is a form and you show tasks input. So when you click submit, you would like to submit that. You're like sending information to the back end. So before reaching there, let me first access it. And I'll say like this. And down here, I'm going to access the value, the input of my task, the task I want to display, right? And I'll say task. And that's going to be equal, same process, document the query selector. I had given it a class of, actually it's not a class, but an ID of task value. And down here, I'm going to access another element, and that will be the task list, where I will be outputting all my tasks. I'll be tasks list, and same process, document the query selector, and I'll access that using the class. I gave you a class of tasks like this. Okay, after that, I'll now go, and here one thing, when you click on a button having a type of submit, you send some request to the backend. And let me quickly add that event listener, because we'd like to add event listener so that when you click on that button, we do something after. And here I say dot add event listener, and by adding an event listener, the one I'm going to add here is the submit event. And this event, you can find them on MDN, and I'll put a link in the description below as well if you'd like to know more about those events that happen on different parts on the HTML, on a form, on a button, and so on. And here we receive a function, and that function is going to receive an event. And what we can do here, before doing anything else, as I said, a submit button sends a request to the backend, but we don't have any backend here, so we don't want to do that, and I'll prevent the default on that element. Prevent default means I don't want to send any requests or I don't want to send anything to the backend, so I prevent that. So this is a normal button like other buttons. And before going that far, I'm going to create an empty array here that is going to contain my tasks. So I'll say tasks array, double R, and that is going to be equal to an empty array. And down here, I'll also create another constant. I'll say value, and that will be the value of the input. Let me specify input value like this. I'll say input value, and that is going to be equal. And remember, we had accessed the value here, the input here. So I'll say task dot value. I would like, when I click on the submit button, I would like to get the value of what the user has input there. And for now, let me just log that into the console. I'll say console log input value. So when you come here to our project, so you refresh, we open our console. Wait for a minute. Okay, it's there. So if I enter here, learn JavaScript again, and I submit, I try to submit. Okay, you see learn JavaScript in the console. And if I say learn JavaScript again and I submit, you see learn JavaScript again printed in the console. That means our function is getting the input as we expect. And now, instead of logging that input into the console, I'll say I would like to add that item or the element in this array of our tasks. And for that, I will use the push methods. I'll say tasks array dot push, and what I would like to push is this input value. And the push method add an item at the end of the array. So that means if you already had one or two items, the third one is going to be added at the end of the array. So after adding the element to the array, I'll do something else, and I'll say tasks array, and I'll use one of the array methods, and that is going to be for each method. And if you are a bit confused about the array methods, I have a whole video talking about that, about the array methods, and I'll link that in the description as well. So we'll go and check in the description to get all those links. And here I'm going to get an element, and that element, and therefore each method doesn't return anything, but instead it does something to each element of the array. So we are going to do something for each element, for each task in our tasks array. And for that, I'll first create a list item, and I'll say document dot create element, and the element I'm going to create, if I just put quotation marks here, you see all the elements you can create. And in my case, I'll just create a list item, because remember here we would like to output our tasks inside this unordered list, right? And after creating that element, we are now going to create another element, and that will be the delete button, right? Delete button is going to be equal to document dot create element. We create a new element, and that is going to be a button. Okay, so after creating that element, we are going to append something to those two elements. And in our case, for our list item, we are going to add there this task. I append this list item and this delete button to one element and output them in the unordered list. And what I'm going to do, I'll first use this delete button, then not what I want, but this delete button, and I'm going to append there something, and I'll just append a text that will say delete. Yeah, delete. Okay, and now these are supposed to be brackets. Okay, like this. And down here, what I'm going to say next is, oh, what I'm going to say next is to append something to this list item. And what I would like to append there, I'll say li, or first access it, and I'll say append. And here I'm going to append two things or two elements. I'll append the input value and also this delete button, because each list item should be having a delete button to delete that task if we want, and that is going to be delete button like this. Okay, so if we go back to our application, at this moment, if you enter a task here and you submit, nothing happens here, and that's because we have set a list item and added some value to it, but we are not outputting that item, that list item, in our unordered list. And I'll quickly do that, and I'll say task list, and that is our unordered list. Up here, we accessed it by its class of tasks, and I'll say dot append. Here I'm not going to do append, but I'd like to append child, because if you see very well, this is the parent element, and all those list items are children elements. So I'll say append child. For each task we get, we append it inside that parent component, that is that unordered list. And what I'm going to add here will be this li, where we have appended now the value and the delete button, right? So if I give that a try and I refresh, I'll say learn JavaScript. When I submit, yeah, we see learn JavaScript output here. But you may be wondering where these stylings coming from. And those stylings are coming from our CSS down here, where I had prepared for each list item in our unordered list, we get some styling, right? Get some particular styling. And for the button, the delete button, we get some styling. That's where these stylings are coming from. If you add a new and another item, let me say learn JavaScript again, you submit, you get it right there. But there is one behavior that is here and it's not good for the user experience, and it will be this input. Like here, as you can see, we are submitting that, but the input is not getting deleted. The input is staying there. But what we would like to do is, after submitting, we'd like to clear that input. And I can do that in one of the easiest way. I'll come here and say task.value, and that's going to be equal to an empty string. And in programming, the program goes from top to bottom. That means the program will start here and goes down. So after outputting the list item on the screen, it will reach this point and set the task value to an empty string. So let's try that and see if it works. So here I refresh, and if I say maybe learn JavaScript, when I submit, okay, you'll see it disappears here, and I say learn a JavaScript again. So after submitting, the input is cleared, and that's the behavior we want, right? So guys, that's all for this to-do app, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And again, if you want that styling, I'll put the link in the description below so that you can go on my GitHub and clone it, and you can do whatever you want with it. So here's a task I can give to everyone. So try to implement this delete button functionality so that when you click there on the delete button, that specific task disappears from the screen. So guys, Again, thank you for watching this video. Share it, like it, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you in the next one.